All right, I'm going to share here um, Gene's comments so we can kind of run through those. I think those kind of speak to the major, points that we need to think about here. Can you guys read that okay?
Chris,
Okay.
this
Yep.
is Barbara. I sent a response to Gene's comments, answering some of his questions. I don't know if anybody saw that.
I saw
did.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Just wanted to make sure that it went through.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, well, let's does that sound like a good plan? We'll just run through Gene's comments here and kind of discuss point by point. And
Sure.
okay. So yeah, the first thing, the name, I told Barbara this because that was my understanding from the last meeting, was that rather than have a single Fred Rasmussen scholarship and other ones that were different and potentially different awards and criteria, that we should probably just call it the Fred Rasmussen Memorial Scholarship Program. So, so they're all just called that, rather than have one be different. And we didn't have any real criteria for when or why we might award that one or not, and how much different it would be. So that was my understanding from the last meeting. It sounds like not everybody else had that understanding, but does everybody is that okay with everybody, or do not like that for reasons?
I move, if we're going to do scholarships, that we name it the Fred Rasmussen Memorial Scholarship Program.
Okay, you have a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, no opposed. So we'll just confirm that all scholarships will be a Fred Rasmussen scholarship, would be the Fred Rasmussen Scholarship Program. So as far as the individuals majoring in aquatic biology, water quality, ecology, or closely related fields, Gene, just help me make sure I'm saying this right. Your concern here is that doesn't correspond exactly to the majors offered at most programs, and so it may not be forwarded on to students.
Where'd you go, Gene?
Yeah, okay, I'm on.
Okay.
Yeah, if you say we're looking for students in these majors, most of the colleges and universities that are on that list don't have these majors. So if we're sending it to an administrator, and they give it to their assistant, and they see that we want to fund a scholarship in these majors, and they know they don't have those majors, it's like a dead end.
So how do other scholarships do that then? If they're trying to attract students in a certain field of study, my thought is that closely related fields at the end kind of takes care of that, and they would understand that even if we don't have their exact major, the same title as their majors, that it would apply. How have you seen it done elsewhere that would take care of this problem, Gene?
Well, if we were interested in one of the emphasis areas, see right down a couple lines below it, we call those things emphasis. And
I'm
that's
thinking
what they're called.
If we change it to say major/emphasis, that would broaden it, so that might be more acceptable.
Well, some of those colleges and universities don't even have those programs. I mean, they're lucky if they have one course that's on the books. Now, whether that course gets taught or not, I don't know, but you know, Western State University is way bigger than I ever thought it was. I thought it was, you know, maybe a step up from a community college, but you know, at least on their websites, it sounds pretty impressive that they got several emphasis programs in what we're interested in. So if we said
Right.
we were, you know, partnering with Western State University and we wanted to fund something in one of those emphases, I think they might work with us.
Yeah, and not every college is gonna fit with this. It's because not every college can teach everything. So they naturally sort of gravitate to certain areas. Like CSU, for example, has tremendous natural resources and
Correct.
like for example, engineering, they have an amazing water and hydrology engineering program, one of the best in the country. Whereas like CU Boulder doesn't. You can't really get a major there, but that's their choice and the faculty they have. So I wouldn't necessarily send this to CU Boulder engineering, but I would send it to CSU engineering, civil engineering, because there's related fields there than in engineering that I think would work. So, and that's just more us screening it than that. But I think that, yeah, I think maybe if we say majoring / emphasis in.
Yeah, I would have
And-
thought ecology and closely related fields would
Yeah, I think
broaden
closely
sufficiently.
related fields, I think makes that pretty clear too. And yeah, they may trash it if they know that it doesn't apply to them, but that's okay. We'll get people from the schools that are learning that stuff. So
I mean, CU Boulder and DU, just looking up right now, both have ecology majors in the biology departments. So-
Well, and I wonder if adding one of those kind of more umbrella terms, thinking more kind of from a like search engine type perspective, right? Like if it, and I don't know how they share these things with kids, but if it's, you know, you add the ecology and again, emphasis or focus on, you know, aquatic, whatever. But if using that the more overarching term of your resources or something that catches that as well. Then I understand that like on our side that using the similar program, but if just from a catching someone's eye with those umbrella programs that might catch some of those other pieces, catch someone's eye.
right, and we also have to think, coming from the opposite direction, that we want to make sure that the people who are applying for this are working in fields of study that are consistent with TU's mission. So like we got an email last week from somebody, just a general email to the general box. Somebody, I'm not sure where she heard about it, but heard that we had a scholarship, and she's studying regenerative agriculture, which isn't really in our realm of, it doesn't necessarily apply, I don't think. But if we get too broad with our, with what we're saying here, then we run into the problem of having to screen people. And if we're too vague, then we have to come up with another reason of why why is this not consistent with TU's mission. So I think that we don't want to get too vague here. And I personally think it's okay the way it is. I think that it helps to screen people out. And if they're working at a university that doesn't have these programs, that's because they don't want to study them. If they wanted to study it, they'd be somewhere else. So. Any other thoughts?
Does environmental science need to go in there, or is that what we would consider a closely related field?
I would say closely related field because that's environmental science could be anything. It could be, forest ecology and things like that that
True.
are very, very rarely or, directly related to rivers. So
Does it make sense to reduce the number of schools to whom we send this that are more targeted to just, since we're kind of just getting back into this with a better emphasis, like to Western and to CSU and, places that have worked with this before.
that makes sense
Adams,
to
we've
me.
never had anybody, but I know they have a fisheries man. Well, that's just a course.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to just send our RFAs out to schools that we know have relevant programs.
Right.
So that kind of takes care of the problem. So
One thing we could do after the line with the majors that we're discussing is adding a sentence or continue, comma, continuing the sentence with a few words, well, more than a few, but a phrase summarizing a little more explicitly what we're looking for, to be consistent with the TU mission. It's in there really, with, water quality, aquatic biology, it's pretty heavily alluded to. But in terms of screening, so, somebody who's studying ag or whatever doesn't apply, it'd be a way to make it more clear what we're really looking for. Just, explaining a little bit more broadly, not with majors, but with just, again, a phrase that tries to capture, the essence of, the kinds of careers we're hoping to support.
yeah, I think
So just saying preference given to students, pursuing studies and a career in such and, such and such.
Something along those lines. Yeah, I don't have the exact wording, but
I think it would be, yeah, I like that idea. I think it might be good to say something along the lines of the applicant's field of study should be consistent with TU's mission, which is, and then state our mission there. It's not on here anywhere. I think it would make sense to have TU's mission statement included on here.
One small problem is I actually just wrote Kirk Dieter from Trout an email because they have not changed, they have not updated their mission in the Trout magazine to their new mission.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, we would use the new one, but so do you guys think that would take care of it if we did that? Like Mark said, we have another statement and maybe that is something to the effect that their field of study should be consistent with furthering Trout Unlimited's mission.
Yeah, I think that's totally appropriate.
Okay. All right, so we make a motion to add that into the eligibility as a bullet point in the eligibility list on the flyer.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll add that statement in that first bit there. Sorry, I'm looking at, I've got it up on my screen. I forgot I hadn't shared that. Jumped over to the flyer. But, do you guys want me to share the flyer? To see where it would go, or? I can find it.
It's across the hall. It's across the hall.
Okay, so can you guys see that?
Can you make it any bigger?
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's much better.
Just hadn't got there yet. So I would say we put that as a third bullet point. Is somebody taking notes on this?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Great. Okay,
So a third bullet point under which headline?
I would say. I would say either,
Eligibility.
Eligibility?
yeah, that was my first thought. That or else maybe it's the first bullet point under additional information.
Yeah, it might be better down there. That'd be fine either way.
Because it's not necessarily eligibility exactly.
Okay,
So yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it's the first bullet point under additional information.
Yeah.
Okay, we go back to Gene's comments.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Down here, I doubt that anybody's curriculum is gonna match exactly with Trout Unlimited's mission statement. So I mean, I would put some language in there that evaluation of applicants will be judged based on their closeness to the mission statement of Trout Unlimited. I mean, so kind of a, you have one, the last bullet point talks about, you know, the scrutiny will be based on the location, or preference will be given to these applicants. I think it goes along with that bullet point that evaluation or, you know, judgment of awardees would be based on the closeness of their program, how it matches with Trout Unlimited. Not that that's an eligibility, because I think it's going to be very hard to, because I can see where a business major or somebody in the recreation, you know, Western's got a big recreation management that might fit in with Trout Unlimited's education. I mean, there's a lot of other peripheral fields that might actually fit. And I like Karen's comments. I think the term environmental sciences, I like that term. I think it's really broad, and that would encompass a lot of good candidates too. I don't know why that the environmental sciences, because it kind of encompasses what we have in there anyway, my comments.
so just because it's so new and I haven't memorized it yet, because I had CPR for trout, conserve, protect, and restore, but this is the new mission. We bring together diverse interests to care for and recover rivers and streams so our children can experience the joy and wild and native trout and salmon. The joy of wild and native trout and salmon, which means that if you were specializing in saltwater fisheries or walleye, which isn't in the rivers or streams, you would not qualify even if you were in aquatic biology. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, and it's up to us to decide how hard we're gonna look at that, or up to the scholarship committee,
Right.
you know, how hard they would do that, but
But
Yeah,
as
I
to
think-
your point, Chris, in terms of water engineering, if they're specializing in, you know, water quality or hydrology, all of that could affect rivers and streams. So, yeah, you're
Sure.
right. It would have to be the judgment of the scholarship committee.
right. Whereas regenerative agriculture, I mean, you can make an argument that
A
it's
distant
gonna
one.
be more efficient
Right.
in
Save water.
that kind of thing, but it's a ways out. So,
Right.
so yeah, I think maybe if that statement has something to the effect of candidates will be judged on how well their field of study furthers the mission of Trout Unlimited with the mission statement there, or how consistent it is with furthering that mission.
I think it's important. I mean, I might be an outlier opinion here, I sense, but I mean, I think, you know, at a high level, we need to focus on what's most essential, you know, what's most mission critical, right? What's most, what is most in line with our mission broadly. You know, I asked the question in an email, is scholarships, we have 18 committees, we're doing a lot of stuff. We have a scholarship program, people haven't been interested. It's the criteria doesn't seem particularly demanding right now. And So I kind of, I asked the question. I mean, so nobody responded. I guess so. Scholarships are mission critical. Great. If they are, if it's $5,000 or $12,000, wherever we end up, that's a lot of money. In my view, unless it's a really high quality candidate, could that 5 or 12 grand or whatever, be more effectively used for conservation projects, for student education or youth education, for adult education, other programs we're doing. I'm in the camp, I think it should be a high bar in the sense that it's a high quality candidate who really is focused on furthering our mission. If not, would it be better to give the 5 or 12 grand to a lower quality candidate, but at least somebody's applied? Or is it better to just skip that year and allocate it to other initiatives that we're doing that we know are mission critical? So that's my 2 cents.
I think that's very valid. There, very valid.
I don't know that we're at a point financially where we have to make a hard decision that way. I think that we have right now 5,000 allocated to this. I'm optimistic on our fundraising efforts for this year that we'll be able to fund that and anything else that we need to do as far as the conservation projects that we have on the board. So I'm not convinced that the lack of interest isn't from a lack of awareness. I think that if we have a more concerted effort to make people aware of it, I think that we'll get applicants. And I think that we should at least give it another year, maybe 2 or something, and see with some more outreach to programs that we know are consistent with our mission, and see what happens. In terms of like the quality of the of the applicants, my opinion is that we're saying 1 year of undergraduate study. After 1 year, not everybody's even declared a major.
Exactly.
A lot of people haven't declared a major after 1 year, and they're mostly taking freshman bio and algebra, and you're taking general ed courses or taking core courses. They haven't really jumped into their field, their major studies, upper division courses yet. So I think after 1 year, if they're in good standing, which typically means a 2.0 or better, I think we know that they're at least serious about their education, and they haven't fallen into the party trap too hard. And we evaluate year by year. That's kind of what we're talking about, is that we're going to reevaluate after each year to see if they're going to still qualify. I don't know. I mean, that's not a real high bar, but it's also not a come one, come all kind of thing. And so, yeah, Karen.
I agree with you, and I'm not really sure why we went back from 2 years after we used to have to complete 2 years before they were eligible for the scholarship for those exact reasons. And maybe it was because COVID was just so weird, with people in school. I'm wondering if we should go back to 2, and to Jean's point about we've already missed the scholarship application deadline for fall, if maybe somebody on the scholarship committee or on the board would be willing to, actually call or contact some of these particular people at Western, CSU, and, maybe there's another one, Colorado Mesa or something, to say, what would make the biggest impact and help your students who are really interested. Would $5,000 entice somebody who's going into their junior year in one of these fields?
Can I make a comment? This is Barbara.
Sure.
The previous flyer in the previous program, as Karen's right, it was 2 years. And in the interest in trying to broaden eligibility, that's why we backed it to 2 years. That frankly, the scholarship committee would be happy with it being 2 years. And we were planning on trying to contact specific individuals and programs. Once we got the decision from the board to promote the program.
Because another problem, and this is a gripe I really have with the colleges, especially CSU, unlike physical therapy, which limits the people that come into their program, they let anybody into their aquatics or wildlife biology, whatever programs. They spend this money and then there are no friggin' jobs when they get out. We've had campers who've gone through those programs and majored in aquatics biology and can't get a job. So, which I think is really unfair to students, but I don't think it's a giant rush for us. So I'd really like to see us go back to 2 years, have Barbara's committee or whatever, talk to those people and revisit this again whatever, find out what the deadline is for spring semester next year, since we've missed the fall semester, if that in fact is true.
Karen, it's not true. And we've been awarding scholarships for the fall semester after the August 1st deadline for applicants. And we then give the money to the school.
Right. We go to school.
Right. So the issue with the timing had to do with the budget approval.
Correct. Okay,
timing.
yeah. But can we leave, is it, Pam, can we just leave the budget for this year for $5,000? Find out when the deadline is for scholarship applications at these few schools. And revisit and really put it out, maybe to just those 3 schools to start, to see if people are really interested. Or
Well,
if there's another.
if we're running this program ourselves, we can set the deadline to whatever we want. If
Yeah,
we're running the
exactly.
scholarship through a particular school, we need to check what their rules are. So if we're doing it ourselves, we can say
But we
anything.
always give the money to the school. We don't give it to the kids.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then we still can set our own deadline. Is that right, Gene? Are you saying that
Well,
if we're
you
going to
can,
award it
but
to the school, we have to do it by April 1st?
no, but
Okay.
if somebody is in school in the spring semester wanting to go to school in the fall, they're thinking now how they're going to get money to do it. And at most universities, at least, at the University of Arkansas, students in the spring semester that applied for scholarships through the university would know by the end of spring semester if they got approved for the fall. And what we're saying is we're not going to approve anybody until after August 1st. And somebody, that's waiting a long time because they're going to start school in, another
In
month.
August sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes in August,
point.
yeah.
That's a good
Well,
point.
to address Karen's question about the budget, yes, our budget year starts April 1st. I mean, that's the TU budget process. So we can put $5,000 in our budget for next year, starting in April 1st, and then parcel it out at any time that budget year, which runs through March of 2024. So I don't see a big issue with when we actually fund it. For what semester? Because I would imagine that colleges have different dates on their semester schedule. So, it's kind of awkward, but if we put $5,000 in the budget, which I intend to do for next year, starting in April, we can send those dollars at any time within that
The
budget.
application deadline is April 1st. I don't know when we would have to have the money to them.
Well, I'm not understanding you, Gene, about The application for what is deadline is April 1st.
Okay. Western State University has a scholarship program that they give out scholarships. And what I saw on the website was that the application deadline for scholarships for next fall is April 1st. And that's somewhere similar to what I was used to at the University of Arkansas. You don't give out scholarships right at the beginning of the semester. You got to give students some heads up, but that they're going to have some money by then.
So if we made ours April 1st as well, and then what's a typical decision-making process? Like when do they get notified if they've gotten a scholarship or not? Is it a month or 2 weeks, or what do you recall?
Yeah, you can do it in a few weeks. You know, there's a deadline. Somebody has to put all the applications together and then get them to the committee. And depending on how many applications you have, you know, probably in one meeting, you can decide who you're going to fund. So it can go pretty quick.
So then if we had, so if their deadline is April 1st, do you think they're probably notifying of awards by like May 1st? Is that?
Yeah, before the
far enough-
semester would, I would
far
say
enough
the
out?
students know before they leave campus for spring semester, whether they're getting a scholarship through the university or not.
Yeah. And I would think that 30 days, Barbara, that would be enough time for you guys to.
I
to
don't
make a
think, I
judgment?
don't think that's a problem, and I like this change in the deadline for the fall. We do this on a semester by semester basis. So we would also need then to move the deadline, say, maybe November 1st for funding for the spring semester. The dates, the deadline dates that we had before were dictated by the previous budget year that started in October, and we couldn't fund until we had the money in the budget. Since the budget year has changed to March 1st, it makes sense that we can move these deadlines.
So let's back up a second. We had, Karen had suggested changing back to 2 years of completed 2
Right.
years, which I think is a good idea too, because at that point they've declared a major and they have started their major specific elective classes and everything, and have a better feel for whether that's what they really want to do or not. They're less likely to switch majors.
I'd
I'd
make
like-
that a motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Opposed?
I'm just trying to get step by step so that we can just move this along.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so okay, so that's passed, so we'll change it back to 2 years. And then let's move on now to I'd like to move that we change the application deadline for fall semester to April 1st with an award date of May 1st. And that we change the deadline, the application deadline for spring semester to November 1st with an award date of December 1st.
I guess because we don't know this, we don't know when the college's deadline is for the spring scholarships. And should not we be in sync with them? I mean, I'm just talking about Western because Jean apparently researched that. April, May, June, July, August, that's 4 months, and January. So it might be October 1st. So maybe could we leave the deadline for the spring out for right now until we find it? We're kind of under the gun to get this done for the fall semester now.
Most colleges do the awards on an annual basis rather than a semester basis. So that's why they only have that one deadline being April 1st. Our program is different in that we do it on a semester basis.
And what's the reason for that? Why do we do it on a semester rather than an annual?
Part of it was because some kids only needed it for their last semester, either undergraduate or graduate. And it's not mentioned in here if we're including graduate students. And should we? I know we have.
I think we should.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of that. For
Well,
sure.
that's
Would it-
not what we're saying.
Not yet.
I know
We haven't
there's
got
two
there yet.
questions here, Jean,
Yeah,
you're right.
let's stay on what, would it be appropriate to say something like it would be $2,500 per semester awarded on an annual basis? So that way we wouldn't have to do a reaward every semester. But if they only needed it for one semester, they would only get, we wouldn't send them $5,000, we'd send them 2,500. Does that sound like language that would make that happen?
I'd support that. I mean, I agree with Jean's broader point. The more we are in sync with, consistent with other scholarship program, other scholarships awarded by universities, I think we should try to be as consistent with that as possible. And if not, there should be a good reason, not to be.
I honestly don't see the value in that. I think we should be able to award based on our schedule. I mean, why do we need to award a scholarship based on a university's program?
Well, I
Well,
guess-
the universities evolved over time to get students what they needed. And students need to know ahead of time if they got funding, if they're going to go to school or not, or how they're going to pay for school. So the exact date isn't important, but knowing May 1st that you have money to pay for tuition in the fall is better than knowing sometime the end of August that you're going to have money to pay for tuition in the fall. So the exact date is irrelevant, but the timing is important.
But as
Yeah.
far as doing a reaward cycle every semester, is that something that we're at requiring that most scholarships don't, that is going to be onerous for the students to do?
Well, if you
Daniel?
want to give the scholarship for a whole year, there has to be some language in there saying, okay, you got to have a certain grade point, you got to stay in the major. We're not going to give you the money if you switch your major to something we're not interested in.
Does this
Yeah.
language work?
Yeah,
Change the application date to 4/1. The award would be for $2,500 per semester, payable at the beginning of each semester after proof of satisfying the criteria is shown.
Yeah, something like that. I'd be very supportive.
Okay, so we're giving out 5,000 at a time, not 2,500.
No, it says
no,
2,500 per semester.
Right, but we're with the understanding that if the student does what they're supposed to, they're getting the other 2,500 more or less automatically.
no.
No,
You don't want that?
I didn't understand that it would be automatically. they
Well,
would-
if they fulfill the requirements that we're asking, what else do we want them to do? If they're in good standing, they didn't change majors. Are we going to give them that 2,500 for spring semester or not?
Yeah, I mean, my understanding, most students, when there are going to be some exceptions who have a semester left, like Karen rightly pointed out, but most are looking at funding for an academic year, that's going to be relevant in the vast majority of the cases. That's why I'd support having a scholarship program along those lines, provided that we can monitor on a semester basis. And I guess, yeah, if there are one-off situations where somebody has one semester left, then we have to think about that as a one-off, I guess we could have the question is, again, is the value of doing this on a semester basis worth the, cost, hassle, potential, inconsistencies with the universities who we have to work with and want to get support to partner with to get good quality candidates, to think about this on more of an annual basis. So that's why I'm more in that camp. So I would be supportive of language along the lines that Karen's recommending. I'm not going to fall my sword over it. It's, but between the two options, that's where I'd fall.
The current flyer has the bullet point that says that they're required to submit a letter and a copy of their transcript as evidence of continued interest in further study. So I think as it's currently stated, it's saying what we want. Am I missing something?
No, I agree with that. I think that first bullet point under additional information there is the one you're talking about, and that basically, as opposed to a full reapplication every semester, that's
Yeah.
just a confirmation that they're continuing in that study and they're performing up to our standards. So what would happen to the flyer would be we would just delete the spring semester application bullet point. So we have under deadline for applications, we've got 2 deadlines here. The fall semester would change to April 1st and the spring would just go away.
Yes, and under application materials perhaps, or additional information, one of those places you need to see copy of college transcript after each semester.
It says that.
That says that under additional information down
Oh,
here
I'm
is the
sorry, I
first
must have
bullet
missed
point.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, got it. Okay.
It just out of curiosity, to the extent there's resistance to the going annual instead of semester, is it because we would prefer, if we have $5,000 budget, would we prefer to give 2,500 to 2 students rather than 5 to 1? And I do agree with Jean's point. We should just be explicit about the amount. The scholarship is what it is, and people kind of know when they're applying. But would we rather have 2 $2,500 scholarships to 2 people versus 5,000 to 1, or are we just kind of indifferent about that?
I'd
Or
like
what-
to see it simplified with the price of college going up since we started this scholarship program. Even $5,000 isn't going to go very far. So
Okay.
I just didn't do 1 at 5 personally.
Yeah, I think that I'd like to see us support a given student, give continued support as opposed to it being a one-shot deal for them. And that's kind of what we've done in the past. It looked like is people have gotten this for multiple years, and I kind of like that. I think having that relationship with that student hopefully is beneficial for us.
So if we're only gonna fund one student, let's find a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Amen.
I was gonna say, if we're, spending the time and effort to find a quality candidate, then that's comfortable.
Well, that
continuing
goes
to
back.
support them.
Yeah, that goes back to our criteria. So if we have criteria saying that sort of the only academic standing thing we have, we just have they have to be in good standing, which typically is a 2.0 grade point average. So if we have basically anybody with a 2.0 or better who applies, they qualify as long as they meet all this stuff. If we only have one applicant and they have a 2.0, is that good enough?
I think it would depend on that letter that they write.
Okay, so that comes back to
And the
my other,
references.
that comes back, and we need to get back and make a decision on this application or the deadline thing. But then we get into sort of gray areas and I think legal shaky ground in terms of our reasons for denying somebody if it's not explicitly because they don't meet our criteria. If it's something subjective, like we didn't like their letter, we have to be very, very careful about how we do that. or we stand a real risk of getting sued.
I guess I just don't see that. Scholarship committees are made up of volunteer committees all the time that approve or deny scholarships based on subjective things like this. But I'm not a legal scholar, so some of you that have more experience with that may have a better take.
Yeah, I
When
don't
I
know.
evaluated applications for scholarships at the University of Arkansas, there was, all the applicants were given a sheet that said what we were looking for and how many points that was worth.
Oh.
And when we evaluated, we had an evaluation sheet that followed along with that. And we would score each student in each category and then add up points, and we had a numeric. Every evaluator came up with a numeric score, and then you had 5 people evaluating. And then there was a way to say that, you know, this student is number 1 and they got the scholarship, and we never had a problem. But we don't seem to have any criteria where you could rate people numerically to come up with some objective measure of saying one is better than the other.
Yeah, I think two points. I mean, there must be some kind, because there's so many scholarships out there, and this is going to be a conundrum everybody faces. There must be some kind of wording that can give us legal cover. I don't know what that would be, but there must be something, you know, towards the bottom or something, if nothing else. Personally, again, I would be in the camp of setting higher criteria. So for example, you know, a 3 or 3.5 with wording that we can make exceptions rather than a 2.0. And if somebody really is a 2.0, we trust there's a good reason why, and we'd still get comfortable. I just think, you know, the former gives us more, sets a higher standard of expectation and gives us more, you know, more latitude and more, I guess, protection, liability protection, you know, to your concern, Chris, for the you know, for the potential rationale for rejecting a candidate. But I don't have a particularly informed view on this kind of stuff like Gene would. You know, I've never been in the middle of, I've been involved, but not to the extent of, you know, like Gene's engagement.
Barbara, can you speak to, since you're a longstanding member of the scholarship committee, what your criteria is? Because typically the committee brings to us a recommendation that we fund Karen Dills. Can you tell us a little bit about the background of what your process is to evaluate?
We look at a lot of things that are really congruent with the mission of Trout Unlimited. Look for people who are actively engaged in their coursework and in other programs. We had a student who started a Trout Unlimited chapter for the students, so that we valued that to indicate that the student was likely to contribute to the TU mission because they were actually involved in a chapter of Trout Unlimited. We also look at the courses that the students taking. If you know the students are taking some of these courses in the programs that these students are enrolled in are academically very challenging, and many of them are taking heavy loads. Now, the truth is that most of our candidates that we funded have had really good grade point averages and really good academic standing, but we have exceptions where a student was involved in not for the initial award, but for the continuing award. The student had a health issue. The student had a family emergency, and they didn't do well in a particular class. And we would devalue that for that one student for that one semester because we realized that there were extenuating circumstances. In general, the students we funded have had extraordinary academic records. So it's not that we're funding students who are lazy students. We've been funding students who are actively engaged in their program. But I have to say that I tried to propose to the scholarship committee some criteria along these lines. I proposed that the student was enrolled in a minimum of 9 hours and a 3.0 minimum grade point average with the caveat that we could waive those requirements under mitigating circumstances. And the committee rejected that recommendation.
And why did they reject it?
Because they wanted to have the flexibility of honoring student, like I said, the instances where students had issues that would have disqualified them for continuing funding because their grade point average or the number of hours that they were able to carry were lower than the criteria, even though there was language that said it could be waived.
But Barbara, was that an initial scholarship or a continuing scholarship to a person who'd previously gotten one?
It was a continuing.
Right, so maybe some caveat could be put in there about that. I don't know.
I think that it's a good idea to have something in any case that says that the eligibility requirements can be waived on a case-by-case basis at the discretion of the committee. I think that should be there always because, yeah, particularly after, I mean, that's exactly the sort of thing. Once we have that relationship, we know that's a good student. We want to continue supporting them. We shouldn't be hamstrung by having no flexibility in our requirements. So I think that should be in there regardless, but I don't want to stop this conversation, just go back to the other one. So let's continue here. I know that the committee wanted to keep you guys were resistant to having any sort of academic standard in there because you didn't want to rule people out. And my sense was that was because we hadn't had any applicants. We wanted to have as broad a pool as possible, but
No, that's not correct.
no,
we have, after the 2020 academic year, before that, we always have multiple applicants with these same criteria. So we're kind of confused about why we're not getting applicants since 2020, because before that, we would have 3 or 4 applicants per semester. So it wasn't to broaden the pool. These were in place when we had a broad pool.
okay, well, are
Dean,
we?
Would you have access to that rubric?
What was that, Karen?
Would you have access to one of those rubrics? For applying? Or could you get an old one or anything?
Yeah, I can ask. I've been retired for 8 or 9 years now, but
You still know somebody there.
yeah, I can see. But to have the rubric, you need to have things that you're looking for. I mean,
Right.
you can't have a rubric on something that's, without.
So this is what I have written based on what you've said. There was concern about having higher standards, and I have no problem with upping those standards to a 2.5 or a 3.0. Perhaps we give points to certain areas, e.g. grade point average, coursework, work experience, interests, science and outdoor experiences. anything else.
Community service, you know, have
Yeah.
some kind of category brought, you know, so they have to write something or put something down in each category. And if they leave a category blank, well, it's 0, you know,
Yeah.
and then when you add up the numbers, it helps rank them. And if you have several evaluators doing the same thing, you get quantitative data, you know, it's not a plus or minus kind of thing.
So that's something we would need to have worked out by April 1st or before,
Right.
basically tonight. If we're gonna put this thing out, we would have to put that out as part of our
Oh, yeah.
our
students-
RFA.
Yeah,
So,
the applicants need to know how they're gonna be evaluated.
right. So is that something that we can get done in time?
Well, again, if we're running this show ourselves, we're not limited to April 1st as a deadline.
Yeah.
You know, I brought that up because I thought, well, you know, if we partnered with one of the programs at Western, give them the scholarship to give out, then we have to follow get their deadlines, but you know, we seem to not want to partner scholarships with anybody. We want to handle it ourselves. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I like the idea of being able to give it to multiple institutions or
Okay.
students at multiple institutions.
Yeah.
Personally,
But
so.
we're talking about one scholarship, and now we're focusing on one student that we're going to give the scholarship to multiple times. So if we're dealing with one student, we're dealing with one university, one
Yeah.
program.
I'm hopeful that we're gonna be able to come up with long-term funding that'll be able to get back to 2 or maybe 3 a year.
You know?
So I think this year we need to stick with 1, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get that changed. So okay, before let's get back to the application deadline. And Jean brings up a good point that we can go later. I think that August 1st.
That's too late.
I agree, that's too late. Is May 1st deadline too late? Because that gives us time to come up with a rubric for them, and it also gives them time. If we're able to do that in the next couple of weeks, that gives them time to do this. Because even now we're looking at only a 2-week window. So if we say May 1st, and then we obviously look at changing this next year once we've, right now we're trying to crank this out under the gun. We'll have time to fine tune it. So does May 1st sound okay for an application deadline?
I guess, yeah.
And then
Okay
that
with
gives us time to get our act together. Okay, so I move that we change the application deadline to May 1st.
Okay,
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll move the application deadline to May 1st. And then, did we still have discussion that we needed to have about whether we're going to do this for individual semesters or on an annual basis with a semester, with a review for second semester?
I'd hate to give somebody $5,000 at the beginning of the semester and then they blow it. And didn't
Well,
complete their coursework.
Isn't that what that's what the review
But
for spring semester would be? Or
Yeah,
would we have?
so is this wording what you want? The award would be for $2,500 per semester payable at the beginning of each semester after proof of satisfying the criteria is shown. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the language.
Right. Somebody, I'm
Exactly,
sure,
but
better wordsmithing.
is that, I'm not sure how scholarships are typically awarded. Are they typically done, like we would send the school a $5,000 lump sum?
Mhm.
Or would it be every semester? It would be a $5,000 award, but we would only send $2,500 each semester.
That's what we've done in the past, I believe, Barbara, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so does that
So
mean
we're
that they,
not running our scholarship program through any university. We're saying, we're sending money to the university in the student's name. That's the only involvement of the university.
Other than them hopefully advertising it for us, which apparently
Well,
hasn't been done very well, and
Well, okay.
I want to understand here, do we need to have, right now, we've got 2 application deadlines, which to me says that it's a full application coming in every semester, as opposed to just send us another, letter, and so it's just a cursory review that we need to have back, but we would only send $2,500 each semester. So I guess do we
My
need
understanding-
a second application deadline to
I
do
don't think
that?
so.
Or does what we have showing here, does that give us that structure?
I
I
don't
think you
think we
delete
need
the
the
spring
2
semester
deadlines.
application.
Sorry, Karen, say that again.
I think you delete the spring semester application right now. I mean, this isn't like we're going forth for 10,000 years. We can change this if it's fine, if it's not working after a year or so.
Okay, so nowhere on here do we say it's a $5,000 annual. We say up to 2,500 each semester. So
Well, change
think-
the up to then.
yeah, I think that should say $2,500, not up to, because we're only going to do one scholarship. Because I think I also agree with Gene that we need to have it be they need to know how much they're going to get. So okay, so if we just take the spring semester deadline off of there,
And
Um,
we should make applicant singular instead of plural in that line,
yeah,
up to 2,500 available for the successful applicant,
yeah,
since we're only given one.
Yeah.
But take away up to.
right.
Yeah, take away up to, but also make applicants
Correct.
singular.
Can I make a comment about that? It could happen that this same flyer would be applicable if God smiled on us and we had enough money to offer 2 $5,000 scholarships. So the reason why it's plural was because it could be in the future that we might have a funding source that would allow us to have multiple.
Well, Barbara, we're just dealing with fall semester,
This year.
the next semester, you know?
Okay.
We don't have to worry about after that.
Yeah, we
That's
can
easy to
edit
change.
this as we get more funding. So okay, so we agree in agreement there. We're just going to take the spring deadline off. Change it to $2,500 is available each semester for the successful applicant. Everybody good for that?
And we're looking at one student right now.
Correct. Okay, let's go. Try to mow through the rest of this. Okay, so we've changed it to 2 years. I think we're covered for the emphasis. Deadline for application, we're good. We're good on up that. Okay, so I guess this here speaks to the criteria, the grade point average criteria. And kind of what I've heard from from several here is that we maybe want to change this in good standing to a specific GPA like 3.0.
Yeah,
And then should we have something about them being full-time or like a nine hours is what Barbara had said before. I'm not sure what is considered full-time at various places. Like, isn't it 12?
I think it's usually 12, but
Okay. But I think, I mean, I
a
think
grad
you can-
student might only be taking 9 hours.
or 6.
Yeah.
So,
But we're not funding grad students so far.
Doesn't say that.
It says
Mhm.
undergraduate complete.
Where does it say
We're gonna
that?
say complete 2 years of undergraduate study.
well, a grad student has already completed 2 years of undergraduate study.
Right.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
have
but
funded
people-
grad students in the past.
Yeah, we should be more
Okay.
explicit, though. I mean, I would read this, I would interpret this as a junior or senior in
Yeah.
undergrad.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Do you
otherwise you
wanna
need to say
at
2
least
years or
2
more.
years? I mean, I guess, do you guys want to fund graduate students or not?
I don't know why not.
I wouldn't be opposed to it at all.
It's again a quality candidate that is
Right.
in an appropriate field of study. I feel like the money would be well spent.
Maybe at the end of that sentence, we just put in parentheses, graduate students are eligible.
Yeah, something like that. I think we have to be explicit about it. Yeah.
Clarify, yeah.
And I'd be supportive, yeah, also of
Yeah.
undergrad or graduate.
Well, it all comes down to what the purpose of this one scholarship should be.
It's to help a student get through who's studying one of these programs that fits with the mission.
A high quality student.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's tie this up. So are we in agreement that this should be a minimum GPA of 3.0?
And that's pretty reasonable.
And
Yeah.
and they should be enrolled full-time?
Yeah, whatever full-time means at that university.
Yeah, and that's fine, because I think there's some flexibility in terms of it has to be an average. So if you have a semester where you drop a class and you only have 9 hours, you're still considered full-time, but you'd have to go back. So I think there's flexibility in that sort of way. So I think if we just fall back on whatever their institution says is full-time, I think that would probably work.
Yeah, that'd be a lot cleaner than trying to specify number of hours and stuff.
Okay, so I move that we make this the third bullet point, applicant. I'm not sure exactly how to word it actually, so I don't move it yet. Applicants, how would we say that?
could have a
Applicant-
3.0 GPA and be a full-time student.
You can
I
come
was
up with the
I was-
right.
I was trying to be eloquent.
Yeah, you can do the wordsmithing later if you.
Yeah.
Simple. That's
Barbara,
correct.
Barbara will leave that to you. So are we good with that 3.0 GPA? Oh, okay, let me move that we're going to have this state that they have to have a minimum GPA of 3.0 and be enrolled full-time.
And we're gonna say it can be waived on a case-by-case basis at the discretion of the committee.
Yeah,
Under
it should-
additional information? Or,
Yeah.
Well, at the discretion of the
Yeah.
committee implies additional information.
Either that or either as a fourth bullet point under eligibility that something, yes, to the effect that requirements,
exceptions can be made
yeah,
at the discretion
requirements,
of the committee.
yeah. On a case-by-case basis or something like that. I'm not sure if that goes under eligibility under additional information. I think maybe under eligibility because it speaks directly to the eligibility requirements. Okay, so I got a motion that we do 3.0 and full-time.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? Okay, so we'll do that, and then we'll add an eligibility requirements may be waived on a case-by-case basis at the discretion of the scholarship committee.
I'd leave that one out.
The exceptions?
I know you're making a rule and then saying, well, we can break the rule. That.
Right. I feel like maybe that, yeah, maybe the exceptions would be made more for a continuing student than for the first.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that's something that we would be doing anyway. You know, that's something, once we've got that relationship, they're going to have to write us the letter and they'll be explaining that stuff to us. So, yeah, do you think we should leave that off of this, since this is getting new people?
Yeah, you don't
Yes.
want to say you're making a rule and then, oh, by the way, we can
Right,
ignore that rule.
right. Okay, is everybody in agreement on that?
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, do we have any other things that we need to discuss here that we're? Is this, this discrimination, is this broad enough? I mean, it covers, I think it covers the bases, doesn't it? Or
Everything.
is there anything that we need to add to that?
Ethnicity,
Race is in there.
Race, you have
that's different
sex?
than ethnicity. Some biologists will tell you there is no such thing as race.
Should we make it ethnicity instead of
Well,
race?
just add it.
I
Okay.
think TU, when you send this to TU for their approval, they'll let you
check it.
know what,
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
was gonna just-
we're worrying about things.
to Cover all of, yeah, what needs to be covered.
yeah. Okay,
So whatever we come up with, I suggest we send them to TU like you said in that email and
Yeah.
see what they say about this. 'Cause
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, sense check with all the wording.
I mean, they're, according to them, we have to get their approval, so.
What?
That's what that's what they're it says on that page that I sent you, is that I think basically because we're operating under their 501c3, that we have to send it to like the
Okay.
CFO for approval. So
It's probably, I'm sure it's for control risk management type.
yeah,
I mean, so it's probably gonna be a good sense check to make sure we haven't inadvertently, to protect us from liability risk too, you know?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
okay, are we happy?
Yeah, I guess for Barbara's thing, under additional information, should we say something about continuing scholarships, or what do I say? No, I'm trying to get something in with the extenuating circumstances. The scholarship committee can consider extenuating circumstances for previous recipients. How's that?
There during renewal, scholarship
What's that?
renewal. Like scholarship renewal, is that?
Yeah,
I don't know if we need that. I feel like we're gonna have a relationship with the person who we're giving the scholarship to where that could be a conversation that just happens. I don't know that, again, that we need to have that in the introduction flyer.
Okay.
What does everybody else think?
Leave it out.
Anybody else?
I don't feel strong in one with the other. I'm indifferent. Since
Put it in
this
and
is
see
for
if
new
TU
scholarship.
takes it out.
what's that?
You can put it in and see if TU takes it out.
Barbara, what do you think?
I think that first bullet under additional information covers it because it says that we're looking for evidence of continued interest in further study and possible renewed funding. So we're not specifying that they have to meet the original criteria for continued funding.
Yeah.
But I thought we told them up front that if they followed through, they would get the second year funding. We're giving them 5,000 for a year, 2,500 each semester, but they got to show that they held up their end of the bargain to get the second semester.
Well, I think that first bullet allows us to do that.
And that's what that says, I think.
Yeah,
Right. So, but sort of, I think implicit in this is that this doesn't explicitly say they have to meet these qualifications up here. It says that they'll be reviewed. It implies that it's up here, but I think it also implies that there's discretion there. It's a review, not a new qualification. That's how I read it anyway.
Okay.
So like we're covered, are we covered there? Is everybody in agreement there? Okay. Does anybody else? You feel good about it?
I'll send you guys my notes. You can see if it's correct. And somebody can design it.
Okay. Barbara, have you been kind of taking notes on what we've?
I do have
the changes?
notes, but I'd want to make sure that they are congruent with what Karen has, because I think I got most of it, but I'm not 100%.
You want me to tell you now, you all now, or do you want me to send this to you?
Send it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, send it.
Okay.
yeah.
If you guys, maybe if you two can coordinate real quick. So Barbara has all the changes, and then if Barbara, you can bang out a final revised one and out to us, and I think we can do a final approval by email. And then we can move forward with advertising it and see what happens.
We have to get it to you first.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we'll approve it, and then I can send it off to TU, and hopefully they have a fast turnaround on it, and we can.
Tell them we have a deadline.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Yeah. Thank you all very much for banging this out. Appreciate it.
So Chris, did you get a chance to draft a letter after last night's meeting or anything? Were we gonna
No.
talk about
No.
that, or?
Oh, no, we're gonna wait. I talked to Sean. He's got plenty of time.
Okay,
So we'll just have it as a topic of discussion in the next regular board meeting.
okay.
And he's gonna send me his issue paper so I can kind of get specifics from that to put in a letter. But yeah, we'll discuss it in the meeting, so we have everybody there. But
Okay.
he said April was plenty of time for him.
Okay.
So
Reed said, and I agree with them, I don't think we should go out and make a survey to the membership on this, because A, they
No,
don't
no.
understand it. We should just
Right.
make a board decision, people who
Yeah.
heard it.
yeah, I agree.
It's not a giant deal.
Yep.
Okay. And
Okay.
May's meeting is with Stuart at the Stardust, correct?
Correct.
All right.
You
and
reserved it, right?
I did reserve it, and
Okay,
I'll
cool.
send you Tom's contact because I won't be there.
Right. I talked to Keith the other day, and he's gonna be the MC. So
So what's at the Stardust?
The May meeting with Stuart Andrews.
Oh, the May meeting. Okay.
And Mount Chavano Manor, where we used to go, is open and welcoming to have us back so they can fit 60 to 70 people. And it won't
Okay.
cost us
What?
really anything.
Chavano Manor?
Yeah.
50 or 60?
That's what she told me.
Bring your
Well, I
own
don't know where
shoe,
else
or-
to go,
Well, the Stardust is a
but that's
wonderful
not in
venue.
Salida. We
Well,
have to alternate.
okay, so the senior center is much better than than Chavano Manor, and it's
Well,
50
you-
bucks
okay,
for nonprofits.
Why don't you check into that? Because I know they're charging, I don't know what they're charging now,
$50.
50 bucks?
That's what I paid last year when I had the winter training there.
All right, we'll have to put that on the April board meeting thing, if somebody can check them out.
Yeah, they're easy to work with. I
Do they
think
have
the
any
woman
technology
is,
set up there?
yes,
They do? Okay.
yeah, you have to bring your own laptop.
Do they have a screen and a projector, or we have to, do they have a microphone?
Just a laptop.
So okay.
You plug your laptop in.
That's the first I've heard that suggested. But,
Yeah, it worked out good.
can you check and see if they're ever, a lot of the places, A, won't schedule more than 6 months out, and B, they have a conflict on the second Wednesday. It's only gonna
So
be,
that- Give me the date and the time.
that's I think the next one's gonna be basically January. Because September 13th is with Chris in Salida, Chris Dirksen. And then November
then-
is also in Salida, right, at Poncha? For year in review? Do we have that review?
Well, that's where we had it last.
Yeah, I think we have that reserved, Pam. Not sure.
Yes, it's reserved for November 9th.
Yeah, I think that's right, a Thursday.
Conflict on
And then next
Wednesday,
one-
so we did it Thursday.
Yeah, we couldn't get in on Wednesday, the 8th, so we're there on the 9th.
And then this, whatever the second Wednesday in January is.
Oh, that's the date you want me to get at the senior center, the second Wednesday in January?
Well, let's see, that's September is in Salida, November's in Salida, so January, oh no, not there, that would be up here, I'm sorry. Too much.
Tell me later.
Yeah, yeah.
I gotta run. Dinner's getting.
Okay, me
cold
too.
here.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Guys,
All right.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye now.